What's up, guys? Welcome to the Intentional Creator Podcast. We are chatting constantly about the creative process in this modern age with social media. And today we were coming out of a conversation, wanted to jump into another one, and we're navigating what we wanted to chat about. And we're thinking about the algorithm and how it affects and works with the creative flow and the creative process. And so how has the algorithm changed the creative relationship? Is the algorithm a good thing? Do we as creatives like the algorithm, and how do we play with it? How do we work with it? How do we engage with the technological beast that is the internet, and how it's being played with and how people are trying to engage with it?
I think this is an interesting conversation because you can look at it from two ways. You can look at it from the creative's point of view and the consumer's point of view, and it's like in both of them,
right?
That's two different conversations. So it's like, which one do we want to focus on? Is the algorithm good for creatives or good for consumers?
Well, I think we could stay on the creative track, but it's funny because like it's also like whenever I'm not in a good creative flow, I get into a consumer track, and I can recognize that the algorithm changes things up. But I think that creatively, I think it's easier to play with it creatively if you can be intentional about it in a lot of ways, because the consumer avenue of it is reactive. It's reacting to you and you're reacting to it. Yeah. Versus when you're creating on social media, you can kind of be playing with how the algorithm is reacting to you. Like you have a little bit of you have moves in a chess game as a creator on social media. And I think that's kind of I think of it as a fun thing to play with. Like, how can I kind of mess with the algorithm and either use it to my advantage or just confuse it and make it really disoriented for itself?
So let me ask you, do you like the algorithm, like compared to, say, Instagram, even, I guess it's like 6 years ago now, where it was chronological? It was probably even longer than that, where there wasn't like the For You algorithm. And I guess just to define to people that are listening, when we say the algorithm, that's like the new age algorithm of the For You page, basically, where it's like suggesting content to you instead of showing you people that you follow. So
that's even coming through on the feed algorithm now. It's like even on the main feed page, it's like coming through. It's like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I have a love-hate relationship to it, which I feel like is the answer to it. So in the sense of like, I appreciated back in the day that things were chronological. It felt like the timeline made sense. I could track with, 3 days ago, Matthew, my friend, was playing tennis and he posted a photo, and that's cool. I liked that. I appreciated that. I missed that kind of like chronological kind of, okay, cool. Like I can kind of keep up with things. I can keep up with friends. Things can kind of be in a flow. Now it's like Matthew might have posted that 11 weeks ago, and the Instagram is just now it's like, okay, well now you see the second photo he posted in that post that he made. Here you go, for no reason. I don't like that. That's disorienting. Yeah. From a chronological perspective of like what's going on in my life and my friend's life, I think that that's abusive emotionally to me, and so I don't like the algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, it also just keeps you like sucked into it because it's not chronological. There is no
infinite
end to it. Whereas like before, you could scroll through your feed, and it's like you get to a point where you've seen what's happened already, and you're like, cool, I'm done. I don't need to like keep being on social media. Totally. Whereas now you can just keep going forever, and like obviously that's to the benefit of the companies because they make more money through advertising. But yeah, it does feel like a very abusive relationship.
Literally, and I think it's a deep dark side to the way the algorithm has changed and what they're doing to our minds in a lot of ways. That's abusive. That's not. There's some sort of relational dynamic that I can't think of the name right now, where basically it's like toxic, and you wouldn't want to be with a partner who acts like that. Yeah, like disassociative or something like that, where it's just very like irregular input. The other aspect of that I love about the algorithm now is the fact that it's given, at least for me, it's given me this sense and this ability to kind of completely step back and out of all of it and just kind of be like, it's now just me and social media. There's nobody else on it. There's nobody else really here.
That's true.
I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want on here. There's going to be people who see it. There's going to be people who engage with it, but it's so irregular and disconnected and disassociative. And if you're not into my content, this algorithm's going to find out and stop showing you.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to stop. And so it's like I can kind of do what I want, and the resonance, the people who resonate with me will be able to find me because that's what they will be liking and be interested in and that kind of thing. So there's that part of it that, like, if you can kind of disassociate yourself from the personality and the personable relationships of your particular life and keep those in the physical world, and then keep social media in this space of like, just kind of like creating and saying and showing up in the ways that I want to, I think that's great. I think that if you're not creating on social media, that again is just an abusive relationship in a lot of ways, because the algorithm is just going to keep you sucked in there. As somebody who puts content online, I have an ability to appreciate that aspect of it because it gives me an edge creatively that I like, that is like fun to play with, in the sense of like I can kind of just do what I want, show up when I want, whatever, and it doesn't really matter. If I want to grow, there's things that I should be doing, right? There's things in ways I should be engaging. But I also know that because of the algorithm, I can kind of just turn that on whenever I want to. Okay, cool. For the next month, I'm going to just be hammering the algorithm in the ways that I need to grow and get numbers up and get engagement up.
Yeah.
And then take a month off or take 2 months off.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice. Like, it's not ideal maybe, but it kind of is in a way if you like know how to look at it the right way.
So do you feel like
those are my two
followers don't really matter anymore, since it's all going to the For You algorithm? So it's like, even if people follow you or they don't follow you, it's going to show it to people it resonates with. So it's like, what's the point of having followers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a clout thing at this point. It's just like, oh, I've got 10,000 followers, look at me, kind of thing. Which, if that's what you're into, cool. If that's what you're not into, cool. Like, I don't know. I don't really care. Again, it's like in that whole disassociative thing of just like I could be detached from all of it. My system doesn't think about any of that anymore. It's given me the ability to like really be engaged with like, okay, how am I showing up creatively and what creative juice am I bringing to the table? And I know I'm bringing some really amazing creative content to the feed, and I kind of like that I don't have a lot of followers. I kind of like that it's quote unquote on the down low. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just kind of like, cool, like I know
there's
I'm just less pressure, and I'm just working my way and finding out my unique way of wanting to show up in the creative space again, which isn't, I don't want it to be in a big broad, hey, look at me, I've got 50K, 100K, whatever anymore. I want to show up in a more of like a producer role and helping to engage and help spread ideas that are going out into the field. So that's just a personal thing for me in the sense of how I relate to follower counts and things like that. But I also I don't think it's really relevant anymore. And it doesn't really matter. It depends on what you're trying to do with social media and what your intention is behind it, I think.
So how has the algorithm changed your creative process?
Well, I was going to ask you some questions. How do you feel about the algorithm? What do you think about the algorithm?
Sorry, I just got into like full interview mode there.
I know, it's great. I love when you do
answers.
And then
how do I feel about the algorithm? It's weird. From a consumer perspective, I get it, and I'm also kind of 50-50 where I like it because it's showing me content that is very relevant to me. Whereas like in the past with the chronological feed, like even though I follow somebody, they might post something that it's like doesn't really vibe with me. I'm like, I don't really care to hear about that or see that or whatever. So I like that you get very tailored content that is relevant to you. But I don't like that it shows other people's content before the people that you follow. I think it would be cool if it first showed relevant content from your follower base, and then from there it showed extra. Yeah, exactly. So again, same with you. Love-hate relationship with it. I think it's really cool and intuitive and incredible that a computer can do that so accurately for everyone across the world and like everyone that's on that platform. Like that's
that's
wild.
a cool perspective.
It's like you can know somebody's personality without even meeting them by just like going on their For You page for 2 minutes.
Right.
Which is kind of wild. So like it's really cool, but I do think it has that abusive aspect to it as well. From a creative point of view, I don't like it. I think it's cool that you have the ability to reach a larger audience than your own and like have the potential for something to go off and go way past your current following capacity. But I don't like that most of your audience doesn't see what you're putting out there, even if they follow you. Like I have almost 30,000 followers, but I'll get like 500 to 1,000 impressions on some of my posts, and I'm like, where's the other 29,000 people that followed me and wanted to see my stuff? They just don't see it anymore. Like when I was chronological order, I was getting like 3,000 to 4,000 likes on my photos, and that was photos, not even videos, because people were seeing it. It's not even because there was like better content that it is now. Just people were getting the opportunity to see it and engage with it, and it's like I find that really frustrating. And I think a lot of creatives feel this frustration where you're putting in more work into your content and getting way less engagement, way less return on investment, quote unquote. And not that it's all about the likes and the followers and the numbers and that kind of stuff, but it is frustrating when you put 4 hours into making a video and then 100 people see it, and it's like, okay, what was the point of that?
Right. Well, and also from a sense of like, okay, well then why does it matter that they followed me?
Exactly.
Like 30,000 people follow me, or however many people follow me, but you're not even showing them my feed. So like, what does the follow even mean?
Yeah. Nothing at this point, really. It doesn't.
It really isn't relevant.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it like that, and from that vantage point.
And then the other part of me is like, well, like people always like blame the algorithm. It's like, oh, the algorithm sucks. Like, but I realized that the algorithm is just people. Like, it's people interacting and engaging with your work. So it's like, if you say that the algorithm didn't like my post, it's like, no, people didn't like your post. It's like the algorithm's just reacting to what people are doing. So at the same time, it's almost like an indicator of like, okay, if this is not getting views, it's like, it's not engaging. It's not as good as what you think it is. I mean, even that's difficult because it's subjective. But when it comes to the algorithm, it's all like generalized, so, and all averaged out in a way.
Well, and the algorithm also has a intent behind it, which is, again, can be looked at in both a positive and negative light. But it has a certain design. It wants a certain thing. It wants you to show up in a certain way. It wants you to show up in an Instagram reel, short form kind of way, 15 to 30 seconds at max way, and that's how you're showing up on your social media, which I feel is disruptive and abusive, once again, to the creators, because it's like, well, what if that's not how some creators operate? What if they do operate in a photography or in a hand-drawn or in a quiet, introverted way, but they make amazing art? Like, that's not fair to them. Not that fair, I don't like even using that word, but there's something about that creates a sense of like, you're not acknowledging these other elements of creative processes that are also just as valuable. And that's, I don't like that at all about the algorithm itself.
And I think like one of the most frustrating things is that Instagram started out as a place for photography. Like, it was a home for photographers. It started the careers of so many photographers across the world, and then just recent years it's been like, no, we don't need photographers. It's like, well,
it's not even about photography
the base
anymore.
Of the platform. It's not. They don't, like, you post a photo nowadays, it shows it to like 10 people.
I get like 20, 30 people on the photos that I post. And I think that that's like the politics behind what Instagram has turned into, which is a product of a baby of Facebook, and there's intent behind Facebook, and there's intent behind this bigger corporation. And I think, again, that's why there's been this part of me that's been like, cool, I can disassociate from all of this now.
Yeah.
and do whatever the heck I want to do. And I think that like, if you can come at it from that artistic perspective, that's dope. And I think that in a way, that artistic perspective, the algorithm can appreciate, because then all of a sudden it's just, you're opening up a channel within yourself. And that channel, depending on how you can open it, can be consistent and never ending, in the sense of like, whatever is coming out of you can just keep coming out of you if you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your creative process, which is cool, because then it plays into the creative content algorithmic strategy of things. But that's really, in how I can see it, is like, that's really, unless you're just super don't care and your ego is so detached from your social media, that's really the only way you can actually like play the game in a lot of ways now online. Is like, you've just constantly got to be putting stuff out, and it's constantly got to be this just kind of like waterfall of ideas and posting beautiful stuff, but just really coming from a place of just like these short form, because it's turned content creation into trendy creation.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it also, you could take the opposite approach where, and a lot of creators do this, where something works and then they just run that like a machine, and every video is the same. Right.
Which is again, it's not creative. It's not creatively focused. It's trendy focused.
Yeah.
Which I don't fuck with at all. Like, it's like, I don't want to be creating for trends.
Yeah.
I want to be creating because I'm fucking creating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I think that that's like a really toxic thing that Instagram has done in the relationship that Instagram is like pushing on us, that is not fair and nice. And the other thing about it is just that there's nothing else that's come along that's created space to create something different.
Yeah. I think a great example of this is, and this has happened with all the social media platforms in the early days, where I would argue that it was more creative. Like, think about YouTube, for example. Like, YouTube in its early days was the Wild West. There was such weird shit. And like,
it was so crazy.
It was just pure creativity, because there was nothing to be gained from it. But as soon as monetization and like algorithms and all that kind of stuff came into it, it started to become more mechanized and robotic, because people could study what worked and just run that on repeat. And like, not that that's a bad thing, because again, it gives you the stability and the framework for making it bigger, like growing the platform, growing individual businesses on the platform. But it's almost like a creativity killer in a way, because you're instead of just creating freely, you're doing what works.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, I think that like this podcast was birthed out of the fact that the algorithms came online.
In what way?
Like, in the sense of like, I don't think we would have been thinking about this in the same way if say Instagram and YouTube had stayed the way they were, and we could have just continued to do whatever the heck we wanted to do.
Yeah.
We would have been creating intentionally the whole time, because it would have been whatever we wanted to create.
That's true.
And whatever wanted to come out of us, and however it wanted to come out of us. Versus, not that the conversation would be relevant, but versus now it's like, it's gotten so oversaturated with trendy things, or this is how you got to do it, or this is what you can or cannot say, that we've had to really take a step back and be like, okay, well, wait a minute, I'm not even creating intentionally anymore. I'm creating actively and reactively to whatever you want me to say and whatever you want me to do, and that's not actually what I want to do. Like, I don't actually really care about that. I want to create like this because I'm my own creator and I can do my own thing and want to do my own thing. And so I think that in a lot of ways, and I think that this is a very active conversation with a lot of creatives, and I think maybe people don't really know what to do with it, because Instagram and stuff like that are so big that it's hard to even think about this kind of conversation. It's like, well, what are you going to do? What else are you going to do? I'm going to do the trendy audio. I'm going to do the trendy theme, because that's how this works. And I'm a photographer who's got 100K, and I've got to show up and continue to show up and make my, But there's really this deep hole in a lot of creatives that I've realized and seen, where people are like, I actually don't feel connected to what I'm doing or how I'm showing up. I can see it. Like, I look at people's Instagrams and I'm like, I can see how you're not connected to this, but you're doing it because it's a fucking trendy thing that you need to get access to or whatever. So I think it's disconnected the creator from their own creativity in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is sad.
It is sad. We just got to this point in the podcast where we're like, algorithm equals sad.
No, I mean, it's not. It's like okay, how can we judo flip it then, and how can we use the algorithm? How can we get even higher in our creativity to use the algorithm even still to our advantage with the creativity that we're showing up in?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing with it is that because things have become so robotic and mechanized. And like, even though that content might perform, the ones that really stand out are the ones that are very different and weird and unique. And so it's like, if you do play that game and really push your creative boundaries, the algorithm can actually help propel that further than anything really else quick. You could have done. Yeah,
totally. And you can kind of just keep playing with your own creativity and find that little pocket that you are unique in, and then can pop off the way the algorithm would take it. And then cool, like there's a lot easier access to Jaja and things moving quicker for you than beforehand.
Yeah.
Because beforehand it would have taken just time. That's kind of how it worked.
Yeah. Time and consistency. Yeah.
Now it just kind of takes consistency, but in a certain kind of funnel. But you can play with the funnel, which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is in a lot of ways is, I feel like, what you and I are kind of playing with and navigating, and okay, like what can the different funnel look like? Intentional creativity is a different funnel than we've had. This podcast is coming from a place of like, this is what our creativity wants to speak about. So it's a funnel that maybe isn't super trendy, quote unquote, right now, but we're also still playing in all these other realms and trying to figure out what other funnels could work and what other funnels could go. That could be both resonant for ourselves, but also be something that could get popped off and go quick, you know?
Yeah. How much do you think like posting at a certain time matters anymore with the algorithm? Like all the little like quick hacks and things that, or like the best practices on social media that people say you should do. Like,
I think
does any of that matter anymore? Like having the right description, posting at the right time, like using hashtags, I think all that kind of stuff.
I think it all comes down to like what the content is. If the content is something that the algorithm likes, it's going to pump it.
So it does, none of that other stuff matters.
Well, I mean, okay, maybe if you're posting like 1 a.m., that's not a good time. But any time between like 12 and 5, or say those are general times that are good for you or whatever. Like if you're putting content out that the algorithm is going to like, it's probably just going to pump it. Yeah, that's at least how my relationship to it and how I see it and how I kind of feel about it. So that kind of gives you two options. One, you don't have to fucking care about what you're posting or how it's coming out or what's happening, and you can just post whenever you want and do whatever you want, and who cares? You're not even thinking about it. Yeah. Or two, you can be intentional about what you're creating and knowing that this and this and this is going to pop in the algorithm, and then find a semi-decent time to post, but not really worry about it after that. At least that's how I see it. That's how I feel about it. What do you think about it? Do you think that there's like specific times, like, at 2 p.m. I get 300 more likes than usual?
No, I think the days of that are long gone.
Yeah,
I think, again, the algorithm, because it made sense when it was a chronological feed. So
right.
If you posted at 8 o'clock in the morning and people were on their phones at 8 o'clock in the morning, you would be at the top of the feed. Whereas now it doesn't matter. Like, I think, like you said, if it's good content, the algorithm's going to send it. Like, if people engage with it at 1 a.m. or 8 p.m., it doesn't really make a difference. It's going to get pushed to people at any time in the day, all over the world now as well. Day. Because, like, before the For You algorithm, most of the people that followed you were most likely local or more localized to you and your area.
Right.
And so they would be in similar time zones to you, whereas again with For You it's global. So
yeah,
even if it is 1 a.m. here, it's 7 o'clock in South Africa. So it's like,
and if it goes, it goes.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it really matters at all anymore.
How do you think the algorithm has changed the relationship with with creators? Like, in the sense of, like, I feel like there was a big creative kind of wave that we could ride back in the day where, you do this and this and this, cool, like, let's link up and shoot, or let's link up and create, or let's link up and, like, And I don't feel that that's as much alive anymore. People are very much like, it's not there really. But what do you think? What do you think that is, and how do you think the algorithm has affected that?
I really feel that community has died on social media as well. I think there was a much stronger sense of community back in the day. And I think the algorithm has just made everyone so much more of an individual because it's global again, and you're moving away from that localization of artists or photographers or filmmakers that you used to like stick with and work with. And not that this still doesn't happen, but because people are seeing people from all over the world, you're seeing people from all over the world, not just your area anymore. You lose that sense of community. And you can have the global community, but I think again, when you as the consumer, you as the creator, other people as the consumer are seeing different people's stuff all the time, community is built on relationships, and if you're not seeing the people that you're trying to build relationships with, you don't build the relationships, because the algorithm keeps showing you new stuff and trying to get you to follow more people that you don't know. So it's always trying to like keep fresh people in your sphere, and so it destroys community and relationship building, I think. That's a really negative downside of it, which I haven't really thought about much until now.
Well, I think it's just like I like miss just like the interconnectivity that it was with photographers. There were all these Insta meets and meetups and that kind of thing, and I think that still can be alive. It has to come from a different place, but it's more difficult. Everybody's thinking a little bit more about just like what they need to get and how they need to show up on their brand and their vibe and their thing, and it's not the same kind of way of just like, hey, let's like link up and create. Which
maybe
I think
we should bring
sad.
the Insta meet back.
Yeah, I mean,
actually,
slick. Like,
that'd be kind of cool.
How could you like bring it back, but from a different place of just like, hey, we're doing this now, not because, well, we're doing it for all the same reasons as we were before, but also we're doing it now just because there isn't as much connection online, and like, how can we connect to one another online, and how can we help people tap into it and feel a sense of community on here? But we're kind of creating and pushing that versus like the algorithms, or versus like the actual platform has the option for that to be growing really easily. Because I think back in the day, it just was easy to do that and easy to connect with people like that. And easy to just like, oh, cool. Like Dean in South Africa seems like a cool photographer. Let me DM him. And then now look at this. You know what I mean? We're still talking. So it's like, I don't think that there's as much of an ease of that anymore. And it's a little bit harder to kind of, you really have to go digging to find those people and find that kind of same sense of like, you can tap into it like that. And I think that is definitely a big L that's happened.
I feel like the algorithm just creates far more isolation than it ever has before, than social media had before. I think when it started out, it was community focused. That was the point. That is the point of social media, is to connect people. And in doing so, with the new algorithm, it's made people feel more isolated from a consumer and a creative point of view, which really sucks. I feel like, I don't know what the solution is, but it's probably just going to more in-person events, using social media as a tool, getting intentional, but really using social media as a tool for connection instead of a vice of isolation. Put that on a t-shirt.
I mean, it comes back to what your intention is. It's like, okay, now the responsibility is on you to bring the intention. You know, we ourselves are the ones who are creating the intention behind what social media is for ourselves and our friends and our creative communities. And that's a little bit more work, but it's really important because like that kind of energy and that kind of connection is so nice and it's so fun. And like, I love the fact that like we're friends now because social media. Like that's the only reason we're friends. And I love that. It's so amazing. And it's bringing that kind of, you know, we have to bring that intention now. And I think that's what we're doing with our podcast and with this podcast and with these kind of conversations, which I think is really cool.
So I think we landed on the fact that the algorithm is not the best. It has
It
has
in
its
villain
positives,
era.
but I feel like, at least from my perspective, it has more negatives than it has positives.
Yep.
And the only way to make it work for you is to be really intentional about how you're doing that and about how you're showing up in the digital world and in the physical world, and using it as a tool to transform digital attention into real world connection.
Yeah. Yep. And how to stay centered in yourself throughout that. I think that the really deep, beautiful silver lining is the fact that it really can, if you use it intentionally, transform your inner state, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of discipline to be in harmony and balance with the beast that is social media, which is difficult.
Yeah.
We don't like the algorithm. We wish it was different, and we're calling in change for it. Go back to the way it was with a little bit of...
I don't think it's going to go back to how it was.
A little bit of salt as to what you've done differently.
Well,
it won't.
I mean, it's like with anything in life, like it's going to keep moving, it's going to keep evolving. It's just how it's your perspective of it and your mindset on it is how it will be for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you keep your mindset about like, oh, this sucks, I hate it, like I wish it would be like it used to, it's not going to be. So it's better to bring a mindset of positivity and intention and connection, and then it will be that for you. Yeah. It's all about how you
use it
see
as
it.
a tool.
Yeah.
It still is just a tool. The tool is doing different things now, but it still is just a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I
feel complete on that.
Yeah, that feels good. I like that one. That was a good, concise, philosophical conversation about the algorithm.
Yeah. Feels like it lands and it's relevant. The easy conversation to have because it's such a big dynamic that we're all playing with.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
All
Thank
right.
you guys for listening. We appreciate you.
What do you think about the algorithm?
Yeah,
Comment
let us
below,
know.
DM us.
Send us all the
smoke
messages.
signals.
Get juiced up on your creativity, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye.